Hello, and welcome to the Iron Maiden. My name is Abby, and today I'm going to show you my tier list video. I'll finally do one. No one's really asked for it, but I know that everyone loves a good tier list video. So this is in preparation for the Proquest season, which has just started. I think there's been a few Proquests past week. I'm not going to one until week 3, I believe. So I'm in preparing now. Before I get started with any of this, though, I want to mention that due to popular demand, I have started a Discord, an Iron Maiden Discord. Join that in the link in the description. It's just for people to ask questions, talk about mostly Vynnset, or share any ideas they have. Alright, let's do this tier list. So first, I'm just going to cover the LL-ish tier. So this is Heroes. Viscera is all the way gone. Us, because that's a bad, or it was a pretty bad matchup. Then is kind of gone, and Enigma is kind of gone. Then is a quite bad matchup. If I was going to rank him, I'd probably put him here if the opponent hasn't got reps into Vynnset, and here if they do have reps into Vynnset, unfortunately. Enigma is an okay matchup. It's probably like a here. Or if they haven't got a lot of reps into Vynnset, it might move up to here. But that one's a lot more favorable than Zen was. They're both going here because they're both very likely to LL before week 3 when I'm going to play. If you're playing in the early week 1 or 2, you might want to consider these. Alright, let's go through some. Well, let's just go in alphabetical order because that'll be easy. Arachne slipped through the cracks. Most of the assassins are fairly good, fairly favored. It's effectively just an aggro deck that has dagger tricks, and dagger tricks we have things for. Some of their cards banish, which can be helpful for us sometimes. I'm going to say it's probably favored. I haven't got a lot of matches put through the cracks. Original Arachne is probably... Oh, who plays this hero? No one plays this hero. Let's go 50-50 sideboard for now. So what that means is if they are trying to play the hero, like they're trying to play contract cards, you've probably got a good chance, like a new. If, in the more likely scenario, they're just trying to fatigue you, you're probably just going to lose, but that's okay, because nobody plays this guy. And then Arachne Marionette. Marionette's probably also here. They have similar tricks to Cracks. Cracks is more aggressive. This is more tricky, I would say. I've been playing a lot of these heroes, but from their side, so I know their tricks a little bit, which makes it not too bad to get them. Aurora is a good matchup, which is excellent because she's probably the best hero in the game, especially since you guys are leaving. This is a matchup you can lose if they get very lucky, if they high roll, but it is a very good matchup that you shouldn't lose in normal variants. Azalea is a pretty good matchup, except for the fact that they can high roll you, kind of similar to Aurora. I'm only going to put her in favored. You can play Husk if you really want to win this matchup, but not many people are playing Azalea right now, so that's probably not that important. Guardians, so like Arachne, if they're trying to play the hero text, they go up, but if they're trying to fatigue, they go down to bad, which is likely. Probably going to put Betsy here and Bravo here because Betsy more likely to attack, I think. And then Bravo, you would only play Bravo if you were planning on fatiguing. I don't know why else. Syndra, really good matchup. It's like here, super duper excellent for us. They can't do much. They're playing blues. They can try and have massive combo turns with spreading flames. But if they're playing the red line version, very free. Original dash might as well be here, but let's just rank her because probably not going to LL this season, or only just maybe. So this is probably another 50-50 sideboard matchup. If they are aggro, you would maybe put them here because they can block and do lots of damage. If they're fatigued, they might go down here. But the fact is, it's hard to sideboard into. Dio is unfavored, if not bad, honestly. I feel like this matchup should be better, but I can never win it. I'm gonna put it in unfavored because I feel like it's almost a me thing. I want to talk to some other Vynnset. If you've got ideas about how to beat Dio, a different experience, let me know. But I found it's impossible to race them and it's impossible to fatigue them with this deck. Corinthia is your 50-50 sideboard deck, except it's always unfavored. If they're playing Dawnblade, you can try and win that, but they can block a lot still. If they're playing Hatchets, they can block a lot. If they're playing Decimator, it's like bad. So it's always unfavored, and you have the sideboard problem. Pi is like Syndra, except a little bit stronger because he doesn't do really dagger pings, easy for us to deal with. Instead, he does just probably better flat attack numbers. Put him there. Fang is excellent because he doesn't play many blues, so he can't really block. He's easy to disrupt for us. Like, we can take cards out of his hands, which significantly minuses his whole attack value, especially get him down to just cards. You know exactly what he's going to do generally. Fairly good, we can race him. Florian? Florian is definitely unfavored. The difficult matchup in which they can fatigue you at any point. They can turn around and try and block. They can also do lots of damage. So I would say the one tip for Florian is that they are going to play Reaping Blade most of the time. They won't be able to gain life. You can actually run Flail and the Book into them so that you have a second source of AB1. Really important for the matchup. So even though it looks like, oh, Earth Hero, you run Reaping Blade, I actually think running Flail is better in this case. Ira is probably a sideboard matchup, by which, of course, I mean that if they have infinite D-reacts and blues and 3 blocks, they're going to have a tough time. If they are boarding to beat decks like Enigma or Guardians, they're playing blocks that have better attack, lots of go again. That matchup you can definitely win. Jarl is bad, but it's not as bad as the other one. I don't know. It's interesting. So Jarl typically plays more proactive of the Guardians. Weird because he has the whole ice thing. So there's the two Jarl decks, the one that is proactive that actually has a good matchup into other decks, and there's the CYB Jarl that does nothing except for block and annoy you, which has a good matchup into maybe the aggro decks. I kind of doubt that. I think the Jarl deck that good players will play is the proactive one, and therefore I think we can beat that. Kano is very favored. I've shown this matchup before on my guides series. They have a very hard time killing you, and they also just die. As long as you have the AB4 and the Void 2, you'll be safe. If you're really worried about Kano, like if you have one in your area that you know, also pack Dance of Darkness. Prevent an extra 2 damage on the combo, which means that there's nothing they can do. Guaranteed win. Kasai, I almost called you Syndra. Kasai is okay. Probably going to put this in the 50-50 gameplay. A little bit like Dorinthia, where they can be quite aggressive or quite defensive. But they have a much harder time being defensive because they typically run yellows, which is bad for arcane barrier blocks. And they have less options. They're always going to run 2 swords unless they're going for something crazy with the Decimator trick. But, of course, they can block a lot. You'll have to do a little bit of setting up, a little bit of paying off. Katsu. So, Katsu is pretty interesting. He is being played right now a little bit more because Zen is leaving. Very aggressive deck. He can do some crazy lines, but not very consistent. I'm going to put this probably into favored because the deck's just not very good, and it is mostly just an aggro deck. It does have a lot of blues like Zen did, but not sure that they can block you out for that long. They also have a fair few 2 blocks typically. KO. KO is a pretty good matchup. They do their kind of number at you. If they hit all their blood rushes in the top 20 cards and they have these crazy turns, then they can beat you, of course. But I think it's not a bad matchup. They have a hard time blocking, which is you, and they're fairly easy to disrupt. Taking 1 card from them after they block is really strong because they will obviously play on their hand with a pitch card and a play card. Vi is similar to KO, except that she has better high roll potential because of the Demi Hero at the end of the game. So she can transform into that plasma effect that draws you an extra card every turn, sort of. I'm going to put that probably down into gameplay. Really depends. I expect that if you're bringing Levia, you're very good at Levia, which is worrying, but not a bad matchup by any chance. Max. Now, Max has just got all these new cards, which has revitalized some people's interest in him, and yet none of the new cards are seeing much play. At least what I'm seeing on Talishar. So if they are playing mech, they can still mech you fairly quickly. They can't kill you all in one turn. So interesting matchup where they lose their barrier, but they gain a lot of block. Really need to delay that mech or get them down low. But it is truthfully unfavored right now. Now, of course, I'm still playing this matchup. It's only just become popular again, but finding it a little bit new is a 50/50 gameplay hero. It's more like luck almost in this case. You have to play really well. You have to outplay them to have a chance at luck. If they're much better than you, or if you're much better than them, luck will almost always be with the more skilled person. But if you're roughly equivalent, then it does come down to what you banish or on what hands they have these big bonds turns or whatever. Olympia. I assume if you're playing Olympia, you're playing Fatigue, but you also, if you're playing CYB and like all this defensive cards probably down here, if you want to have a chance at beating other things and you're half proactive, you might be up here. I'll just put it in bad because like no one's gonna play this, kind of like Arachne. Basilio is fairly interesting. This is this is definitely a favored matchup where they can't block. You have the Arcane Barrier, you have the Spell Void, hard for them to kill you, but they can high roll really, really hard. Like if they hit their big turn where they do the Gone in a Flash with 4 instants in hand and they just go absolutely ballistic on you on like turn 2, well, you're probably going to lose that game. But in most scenarios, you can disrupt them and delay them until they just die. Prism is definitely a good matchup. I probably am going to put it up here in the good tier because really hard for them to enact any game plan into you. When they try and attack with their heralds, you have poppers. When they try to set up angels or other ward and shadow non-attack unpreventable all the stuff away. And if they try and set up spectra auras, you even have creepers and other action point manipulation to try and kill multiple. Or you can also block out swing flail. You have lots of options on all of their game plans, and they start on 32 life, which means that in some games they don't get to enact any game plan, they kind of just die. Rhinar. Let's see, Rhinar is fairly interesting because there's a very proactive Rhinar deck that tries to all intimidate. For example, last month I played a game that I didn't get to upload in which a Rhinar 3 intimidated me on turn 0. They went first with a crazy turn that did like 25 damage and intimidated 3 guards, and obviously you lose that game. But also they can trip over themselves really hard. The other type of Rhino deck is the fatigue one, where they just play Romping Club and block out a lot. If anyone really plays this deck, I'm gonna probably put it into sideboarding, because obviously if they get really lucky in the progress proactive version, they can win. And if they play in the defensive version and you sideboard wrong, then you will almost guarantee. Riptides are another fairly interesting matchup. They can't block your arcane very well. Typically, some Riptides are obviously teched for Runeblade with something like Aurora in the field, but it's hard for them. They don't get value off their traps nearly often. Their disruption's not all that important. Like, doesn't affect that much. That in favored. Bolton. This matchup's fairly good for Vynnset because obviously they have a bunch of yellows. They have a hard time blocking arcane. Although they attack and then we want to block with their spare attacks, that can be difficult. They have high roll potential where they kill their Luminers early, or they get Big Soul and Cataclysm, or whatever like that, but probably still going to put it in favored. I think it's on the Bolton to high roll in an average variance. I think Vynnset's got that matchup. Heklo, I'm going to assume you're fatiguing, although you have a lot of blues and 3 blocks. Armor not having barrier can be tricky. We're going to put this up into unfavored because of that arcane barrier weirdness where they don't have armor and they have arcane barrier, or they do have armor and they don't have arcane barrier. Check that there for now. A weird matchup, but no one really plays it anyway. Uzuri. Uzuri is probably actually right here a sideboard matchup, or maybe a gameplay matchup, because they sometimes have a heavy fatigue sort of game plan with blues. They want to slowly grind out your deck efficiencies, or they have a more aggressive slant where they just try and disrupt you every single turn, and they play things like the 0 for 4 dagger buffs, catch up on damage. So one of those decks you can beat, one of those is going to be fairly difficult. You need to sideboard roughly the same for either of them, I think, anyway, so I'm going to chuck that in the gameplay. For Dance, this is a fairly interesting matchup. I've talked about this matchup before. The problem with Verdansk is nothing to do with her Earth cards or anything she can do normally. She can not hurt us if you give her spare turns. She can't really disrupt you if you give her spare turns. Can't really kill you if you give her turns. You can just set up on her all day. Big problem is they have Scour, which can destroy all of your Malefics and all of your Rune Chants and set you back to the Stone Age. So because of that, I've said before, she starts here if they're not playing Scour. They play 1 Scour, go to 50-50 gameplay luck sort of category. Play 2 Scour, you're down here. Play 3 Scour, you're dead. We're gone. So I'm going to assume they're going to play at least 1 Scour and chuck that in the gameplay section. Although I think it's very tricky to win this matchup if you give them time. Victor is obviously very good at blocking. He draws cards from the blocks. Although we do have lots of fairly big attacks, we can win those clashes. Lots of armor, fairly good at blocking arcane. I'm gonna probably put him in bad. Victor has that problem where deck is very good at attacking. They have their pummel or their big attacks. But also, if you just attack on value terms with them, you're big. Got that classic Guardian problem. And Vynnset is, well, a 50-50 gameplay, I guess. You need to outskill them a little bit and you need to get a little bit lucky. So it's more about who hits their disruption I think, against Vynnset v Vynnset, and of course, whoever has more Malefics than the other person. Because whoever has more Malefics will have to break their quill hand later, and keeping your quill hand longer is obviously very, very good. Now, I was going to quickly do this alignment chart version, which is very fun, from good to bad matchups, fast to slow matchups. So let's quickly run through this. I think it's cool. Fairly good matchup, pretty fast. Decent matchup, probably very, very slow side. Still a fairly fast matchup and pretty good, but not as fast. Maybe one of these were the face. Let's just put them evenly for now. Aurora is a really good matchup that is going to be very fast. Syndra's even better and is going to be very fast. Yep, let's do that. Dahlia is a little bit good and fairly fast. Maybe there. Well, she can't really block. Betsy is going to be fairly slow and a little bit bad, but not as slow as something like Bravo, which is, I assume, going to be extremely slow and fairly bad. Victor's very similar. A little bit less slow, but still very bad. A bad matchup, and we have no idea if you're going to be fast or slow. You're extremely fast, but bad. Actual no idea about Dorinthia. That's the problem with her. Well, I'm going to rank this, I guess, now. Can't take it back off. It's a fairly slow matchup, but it's not that bad. It's pretty good. Fast matchup. A little bit slower than these guys because he no blue. Block. Fairly good. Probably going to be very slow. Bad. Kind of don't really know if they're going to be slow or fast, but let's see. Hull is slow, but not too bad. Kano is extremely fast and good. Would you correlation? You get this really, really nice constellations here. Kano can still blow you up, I guess. So we'll put him on the other side. All the red heroes are easy peasy, and all the blue-ish, no, not really. Guy is probably faster. There. Katsu is going to be fast and is, but not that great. KO's fast and probably Levi is going to be fairly fast, but less good. Max is going to be fairly fast, although they can slow the game down a lot. Not so good. Yeah. New is going to be a fairly slow matchup and very luck dependent. That's going to be slow and bad. That's going to be fast and honestly no idea about what your Rhino opponent is going to do. Medium and probably fast and Gorilla Face Assassin or Bolt. Gorilla Face the Assassin. Tekla is going to be extremely slow and okay. Let's see. Slow down the game a little bit. Probably going to be okay though. But it's pretty bad. Low. Not the worst. You I do. Um, yeah, fast and medium, and then if he was around, the pseudo around is pretty bad but pretty fast. Obviously the matchups where the opponent tries to kill you and they can't block all that well. Excellent. Get down into this sort of mid-rangey soup with the warriors and the some of the mechanologists, and then you get down to the guardians and other fatigue style decks, which are fairly bad. The only outliers really are that Dio is super hard to beat because she's like Kano, where she's not like a real quote unquote deck where she plays back and forward. She just does one thing, and if you block, then you win, and if you don't block, then you die. Difference is good against Kano because of our barrier options, bad against Dio because we can't block enough. Maybe a little bit slower, but fairly bad. Okay, gonna be that video for today. So remember, I have the Discord in the description. I have other great, hopefully you think so, videos on this channel about all sorts of matchups. And I have my comics on Global Comics. Find at the end of any other video, I've got a link. Have a nice day and be good.